Shalom and blessings, Eduardo Yosef, greeting you from Israel, the land of the Bible. As I always say, more than 80% of the biblical events that we have recorded in the scriptures happened in this place, in the territory of Israel. A few months ago, when this pandemic began, we thought that this had no end. In fact, we still find ourselves in this situation. And before the pandemic, we used to collaborate here with many people who could come from abroad, who would take a good plane, come from outside, and travel together with us through the land of the Bible. What the Lord said was, I want you from now on not to stop doing what you were doing, but on the contrary, reach many more places where I want people to learn about and know the place where I sent my son and the path he walked. So we set ourselves the task of starting a project through a YouTube channel which was traveling through Israel with the Bible in hand, where you will find different materials, several videos where we are at the place and we are teaching about the scriptures. And we are truly amazed at how the Lord is using that medium and how he is opening the eyes of many through the scriptures at the place. Even though you are not at the place, it's as if we are bringing the place to your living room. And I believe that for the first time in history, this is happening, and we are the pioneers. The Lord is using us in this as a kind of first fruits, and you are the first ones who are receiving this material and learning about Israel in the very place where these events happened. This week specifically, God also spoke to us and asked us to bring to your home the last week of the Messiah in Jerusalem. What we are going to do over the next few days, to be more specific, during the 6 days, is that we are going to have special episodes. Today we are going to tour the Mount of Olives. Tomorrow we will be in the upper room, also known as the Cenacle, the place where Jesus sat with his disciples and took part in what we know today as the Last Supper. The question is, what was the meal that the Messiah was sharing with his disciples? We all know what he was doing there, what it was, what the meaning was, and we are going to learn about it in this material. Then we are going to go to the Garden of Gethsemane, and that's an episode you absolutely can't miss. I can assure you that there's a lot of revelation there, and you have to pay close attention to what you're going to see in that material. Then we're going to go to the Antonia Fortress, the place where the Messiah was judged in the morning hours, and then we're going to visit two alternatives. And why do I say two alternatives? Because in the city of Jerusalem today, there are two places where it is said that Jesus was buried. On one hand, we have the Holy Sepulchre, the traditional place from ancient times, and on the other hand, we have a recent discovery from the year 1800 known as the Garden Tomb. We are also going to visit this place, and we are going to compare these places biblically, and we will draw conclusions with the scriptures in hand in the place where the event happened, and we will be able to learn. This is going to be a week full of learning. So stay tuned, be prepared, don't miss the episodes that we are going to share with you, because we truly believe that without a doubt they will be full of blessings for your life. Before we go directly to the Mount of Olives, I also want to share a little bit with you that in addition to these 6 days, you can't just limit yourself to these 6 days, because we have much more to give you. On one hand, the Voices de Israel ministry, which has its channel on YouTube. On the other hand, the same Voices de Israel ministry, we have our website where you can become a friend of Israel Ministerial, connect with Israel, and find out what we are doing here in Israel. How to bring the good news to his chosen people. So you and we together can become partners to share the message in God's land. Another thing I want to invite you to do is that you can also become students of the LAN Academy. The LAN Academy is an academy where today we are providing resources from an archaeological, historical, and cultural perspective where we learn about the scriptures directly from Israel. There hasn't been this opportunity until now. The people we knew or those who came to Israel could settle here for a few months and study here in Israel on site. What we are doing today is taking all the resources of the people who used to come and study here. We have put it online so that many of you who may have the chance to come someday, or many of you who maybe at some point want to, or maybe can no longer come, at least you were able to learn about Israel from an archaeological, cultural, and historical point of view. We always say that leaders who want to speak with authority about Israel need to visit Israel, but due to, as we know, the restrictions. So nowadays what we did was provide them with online resources so they can speak with authority with resources directly from the land of the Bible. And not because someone told them on YouTube, found it on Google, or took it from a website, but because they are learning directly from the source, directly from the place where the events happened. So there I left you these opportunities to connect with us through the Voces de Israel ministry, through the LAN Online Academy. And there's a third option, the day when the possibility to visit Israel opens up again. We also have here the first and only Hispanic Christian company in the land of Israel, which is responsible for training, equipping, and preparing groups that come to make a pilgrimage in the land of the Bible. So there you also have the opportunity to visit Israel through the company. We'll leave all the information for you. And on the website where you are viewing the material, where you can also see the material. Those who are watching it on another platform can view the material. There you can contact us. There you have the ways to get in touch, how to stay in contact, how to connect with the ministry. And also know that we have a lot that we are doing. I'll share more about it over the next 6 days we're together, so I won't keep you any longer. Let's go straight to the Mount of Olives, because we have a lot to learn today. So I'll say goodbye here. Well, let's go to the video, watch it until the end, and we'll meet here again tomorrow. Greetings, blessings, and let's go. Get ready, make yourself comfortable, because we're going to learn a lot. Every time I find myself in this place, I always say that if the rocks could talk, they would have so much to tell us. Exactly, in this very place, it was where Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah, was entering the city of Jerusalem in the most critical week of his life. He knew that the hardest hours were about to happen, the toughest times he would face here on the face of the earth. And this place, the Mount of Olives, was very significant for him. It was very significant in history, and it is very significant for what is to come. This is a place that has a past, a place that has a present, and a place that points toward the future. This was exactly the place where the Messiah was lifted up, where he had the ascension in front of his disciples who were here with him. And this is the place where he will also return, according to the book of Zechariah. Let's walk a little further inside. Let's go in and see what we find today on the Mount of Olives. Before we start our walk, let's talk a little about history. The Mount of Olives only has meaning because of its link to Jerusalem. It's not an independent place, but rather a site that is in dialogue with the mountain that stands in front of it. And I'm referring to Mount Moriah, where the first and second temples were located. That place is more well known, but it's also much lower. The Mount of Olives has an elevation of 720 meters above sea level, and between it and Mount Moriah, there is a valley that is responsible for creating the unity toward the entrance of the city. That is to say, everyone who came to the city of Jerusalem could see from the height of the Mount of Olives a panoramic view of the city they were about to enter. In the ancient temple, the Mount of Olives is the main setting where King David appears in repentance, and from there he can see the place for the sacrifice. This was also the place where David left Jerusalem during Absalom's rebellion. He goes up the Mount of Olives and worshipped God at the summit. It was also on this mountain where the prophet Ezekiel saw the glory of God resting. And the prophet Zechariah, for his part, prophesies that when the Lord returns, his feet will rest on the Mount of Olives, which will split, forming a huge valley. However, in the New Testament, this mountain takes on a much greater significance, since it was in this place where Jesus encouraged his disciples and gave them instructions for after he was crucified. Here, Jesus spent the night before his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane. He wept for Jerusalem on this mount, and it was also where he made his triumphant entry. It was also here where he was seen for the last time, giving his final words. During the period of the first and second temple, the Mount of Olives was the place where the high priest sacrificed and burned the red heifer, whose ashes purified in the temple those who were impure. It's important to keep in mind that on this mount there is not only a geographical link between the desert and the fertile hills of Jerusalem, but it is also a spiritual link between heaven and earth. This was the place of the open portal for Yeshua to be received into heaven. Many people wish to be buried on the Mount of Olives, where the Messiah is expected to arrive for some and for others to return. Meanwhile, we continue touring here in the area of the Mount of Olives. I am walking right now inside some passageways that are here in the cemetery area. As mentioned earlier, this cemetery is 3,000 years old. And an interesting fact is that there are many prophets buried in this place, and very close to here is Obadiah. Zechariah is also here. The son of King David is also buried in this place. Several prophets, Malachi is also here, in this place. This place has existed since ancient times. It's possible that Jesus, the Messiah, saw some tombs in this place. Obviously, he didn't see it exactly as we see it today, because this has grown a lot, but he did see some. And another interesting fact, I don't know if you knew this. Do you remember that we have a psalm, and the psalm says, "Even as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear evil, for I trust only in you." Exactly, it is believed that the psalmist wrote that psalm in this place. And why in this place? Because there is a valley here, and this valley is called the Kidron Valley, also known as the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Allow me to show you a look. Exactly, as you can see right there, here, the Dome of the Rock, okay? The Dome of the Rock. As you can see there as well. The cemetery, we talked about this as well, and other material. The cemetery, that Arab, the gate of mercy, the gate through which the Messiah entered. According to the week that we are studying, according to this week, he entered through there. And notice, if you can see in the image, there's a valley here. This valley is known as the Valley of Jehoshaphat. There, in the distance, I will go closer there later. There is the tomb of King David's son, Avshalom, and here, to the side, in this area, there was what is known in the scriptures as Bethphage. To this day, if you look it up on the map, you will find the city of Bethphage, which is located back there. By the way, down here you can also find, or more precisely, you could find the city of David, the city of King David, which he had taken from, remember, from the Jebusites. All of this is what is known as the valley, the Kidron Valley. Back there is the Valley of Hinnom, the place also known as the Field of Akeldama, the site where Judas hanged himself. And behind is the Tyropoeon Valley. Interesting, because the three valleys form the letter Shin Shaddai, the initial of the name of God, forming the name of God. And the scriptures tell us that his name will remain eternally in his holy city. And the three valleys form the initial of the name of God. Mount of Olives, that's the highest peak up there. And from there then, the Messiah begins to walk along the well-known road called the Palm Road. If you can see over there, that vehicle that's coming in through there, there's a whole road there. We're going to go through there, and that's called the Palm Road. Downwards, downwards, downwards. There, all of that. In ancient times, this is where those people who came to receive the Messiah were, and what is known as the triumphant entry of the Messiah. This place that you see here in front is known as Dominus Flevit. This place right here in front is where the Lord stopped, according to the book of Luke, chapter 19, and looks toward the city. At that time, Herod's temple was there, and he announces the prophecy that would be fulfilled years later. He starts his walk, goes through the Kidron Valley, and enters the Golden Gate, also called the Gate of Mercy. And you will remember that inside there, 2,000 years ago, he began to overturn the tables and started to look angry. Because they have transformed the Father's house, not according to what was written in the book of Isaiah. They have made the Father's house a den of thieves. He says it specifically, the house of prayer for all nations. It's also important that all nations, when they prayed and came from different parts of the world, the people, remember that the Jewish people were required to come 3 times a year to the city of Jerusalem, and the main entrance was the eastern gate. All entered from the east. The area of the Mount of Olives is the highest place, as we mentioned at some point, and Mount Moriah, which we have here in front of us, is the one that is lower. However, the city of Jerusalem is very important, but the Mount of Olives is no less important since several events also took place here. Let's keep exploring a little more here as we continue our tour. I'm going to tell you an interesting detail about this cemetery, who, even today, have been buried since the birth of the modern state of Israel. Let me tell you a bit about that while we head down. The Mount of Olives Cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries in the country. Jews were buried here during the periods of the First and Second Temples, and there are around 100,000 graves from all periods. Some of the graves are carved into caves in the rock, and there are others that are built with stone. Many of the people who were key to the establishment of the modern state of Israel in 1948 are also buried in this place. And on the Mount of Olives, there is also a mass grave that is dedicated to the victims of the War of Independence. There are also some heads of government who have a place in this location. To this day, this cemetery is still in use. And many of the families who buried their loved ones here say that one of the main reasons they chose to do so was because, as it is written, the coming of the Messiah, then the dead will rise. As we keep walking, we continue going down here in the area of the Mount of Olives. This street, the one we have right in front of us, what you can see here. In the past, this pavement didn't exist, but what was here was dirt, but it was also dirt mixed with rock. This type of rock, more precisely, this is called limestone. This limestone is kind of a yellow color, and the whole city of Jerusalem is built with this stone. And during sunset, the city tends to look yellow. You can see that even the tombs are all yellow because of the limestone, and the whole city of Jerusalem is the same way. If you can see here as well, this wall on the other side too. Behind this wall, there's a building. A building called Dominus Flevit. Dominus Flevit is Latin, which means Jesus wept, the Lord wept. This street, specifically, is the place where the crowd from 2,000 years ago heard the sound of the little donkey's footsteps on which the Messiah had ridden. And they began to lay palm branches along the path, saying, "Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna to the Son of David." They were specifically referring to the Messiah, to what was happening in this place. We are going to continue walking here. We are going to keep seeing what we have so we can keep learning. But before we continue, I wanted to tell you that behind this wall, something happens that we have written in Luke chapter 19, and we also have it in the book of Matthew. What happened here specifically? It's that, do you remember when the Messiah is walking? He is coming down this street together with his disciples. One of the things that happens is that he stops. When he stops, the scriptures say that he gives a prophecy to the city of Jerusalem where he talks about how not one stone will be left upon another. And what was being seen was the temple at that time. So he gives this prophecy and he gives it in this place. This place is called Dominus Flavit, as I mentioned. You can see the sign. Why? Because the Lord weeps, the Lord wept. And here he continues his walk, riding on the little donkey, to finally enter through the Golden Gate. We are going to keep walking. We are going to keep going down this way. Let's read what it says in the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 37. When they were coming near the descent from the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples, rejoicing, began to praise God with loud voices for all the wonders they had seen, saying, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest." Then some of the Pharisees from among the crowd said to him, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." He answered and said to them, "I tell you that if these should keep silent, the stones would cry out." And when he came near the city, upon seeing it, he wept over it. Very well, as we continue walking here through the area of the Mount of Olives, we keep learning much more about all of this. And I'm very close. Look, up there, right behind me, is where we started, right? And we began to walk. And now we find ourselves a bit further, almost in the center, in the middle part of the valley. Come on, I'll show you exactly. We're here. This is the area of the Kidron Valley, known as the Valley of Jehoshaphat. If you can see there, up, the ancient walls of the city of Jerusalem. And we're going to keep going down, because I want to show you one of the important tombs in this place, and I think you can already start to see how it stands out from all the others. That structure, which is kind of pyramidal, it's the place of Shalom, the son of King David. Approximately, that tomb is 20 meters tall. And it is one of the oldest in this entire area. Now I'm going to get closer so you can see it a little bit too. More from the front side. While we keep walking all around this place, we keep walking here. You can't imagine how big this cemetery is. There are thousands and thousands of graves here. And also the fact that remembering that it's not only used today, but it was used in ancient times long ago. Look at all the olive trees here in front of us. Kidron Valley, Valley of Jehoshaphat. It is believed that this will be the place where the Lord will gather the nations of the earth to judge them. According to the book of Zechariah, that will happen here. Let's keep walking a little bit around here. We are exactly in the central part of what is the Kidron Valley. And all of this leads here. Notice here the valley goes down, continues, and connects with the Valley of Hinnom. Here we have the pillar, as it is known, of Avshalom, the son of King David. Alright, we're almost at the end of today's episode. Don't miss our next session, because in our next session, what we're gonna do is go behind those walls. That's the wall of the ancient city of Jerusalem. As you can see, there's a kind of wall there that rises a bit higher. That's the Golden Gate, the Gate of Mercy. We saw a little bit about that before. Let's imagine that we were among all that crowd that came to welcome the Messiah here on the Mount of Olives 2,000 years ago. We were among those who laid down palm branches for the little donkey to pass by. And we were those who shouted, "Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." What was going through the Messiah's mind at that moment? What was he thinking? We know that he was human. He was a man of flesh and bones, as the scriptures tell us. On the other hand, he was also God. But as a human being, he knew he was about to enter the darkest hours of his life. The time was drawing to a close. It was imminent. It was his last week, the week of Passover, the most important week, perhaps for the Jewish people, of the three most important festivals. The week of Passover, one of the most important even to this day. We, just as he entered 2,000 years ago into that ancient city, we are going to follow in his footsteps, and we are going to enter the house where he dined together with his close people, with his disciples, with those who were close to him, who saw him walk for 3 years, who saw him perform miracles for 3 years, who were by his side, who managed to breathe his joy, who managed to see his happiness, who managed to see his loneliness, who managed to see his time of worship, his intimacy perhaps with the Father. On that night, in that place where what is known as the Supper, or the Last Supper, was celebrated, we are going to see how the Messiah celebrated it, what exactly he celebrated, what the Passover meal was, or the Pesach that Jesus was celebrating together with the disciples. What was the meaning in the book of Exodus? So that's what we are going to look at. We are going to enter that house, and we are going to investigate a little bit about how it was and what happened that night. And let's remember that that was one of the saddest nights perhaps for the Messiah, because it was the night when those close to him began to leave him alone. He was going to return here again that same night in a very nearby place. We will also be here in the Garden of Gethsemane, and we will learn what happened in this Garden of Gethsemane. I simply stay here, meditating and asking myself if when he passed through here, through this valley, the same words of the psalmist came. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for I will trust only in you. Could it be that the Messiah repeated those words while he was about to enter the city of Jerusalem in the darkest hours of his life? Don't miss our next episode. From here, we will continue sharing with you and retracing the last week of the Messiah in Jerusalem. See you in the next episode. God bless you from the land of the Bible.